By now, we've all experienced a tidal wave of coverage about the who, what, where, when and how surrounding the death of superstar Michael Jackson. We know his music moved the world and that his peers and fans will forever remember him as the unquestioned king of pop. But what's truly amazing about this influential icon is how little we, the public at large, really knew about him as a person. What about Michael the man? In the next half hour, we'll visit with friends, collaborators who shared personal time with Michael at work and at play. We all knew Michael for heartfelt songs like We Are the World, but how big was his heart when the cameras were off?
I saw this guy go into an orphanage in Romania and turn the conditions around within 24 hours.
And only someone that Michael considered to be like family would really know what he was like as a father.
We talked about his moments when he was young and how, he would never have his children go through any of that.
In entertainment, kings are crowned based on the legacy created by their impactful body of work. But it's the everyday thoughts, feelings and actions that define who we are as a person. This is what we leave behind to our friends and family, to those who are close to us, our human nature. I'm Tim Cash, and welcome to Michael Jackson's Human Nature. To most of us, Michael was larger than life, both as a performer and as a humanitarian, and he often seemed to operate in his own way. What few people know about him is that, hey, the man loved to go out and party once in a while. But don't let me tell it, it just so happens that Michael knew an expert on the subject, Diddy. It probably goes without saying that if you're not on the list for a Diddy bash, you're not getting in. So how do you play it if the king of pop unexpectedly shows up wanting to get his groove on?
I was throwing this party for the MTV Movie Awards. I was starting to plan to really do my entree onto the scene as an actor. I invited everybody. Everybody was there. The Beckhams was there. And I remember Beyonce was there. Jamie Foxx, Ashton, Cameron Diaz. It was Will Smith, Chris Rock. Everybody that was moving and shaking in Hollywood. So the party's going on, the party's up the chain, the party's already a success. I remember Beyonce had just dropped Crazy in Love. I remember that's what was just killing the dance floor. And she was there. And so I remember the DJ, he ain't played yet, and the dance floor was warmed up, and everybody was saying, yo, we want to hear the new Beyonce joint. That's how hot it was. Security comes to get me and says, you have a guest here who wasn't on the list. And I'm like, who? He's like, Michael Jackson. I'm thinking they joking around. I'm thinking like, they trying to maybe punk me. This is like I think Punk was out during this time. I'm not knowing what's going on. So then I go towards the back by like where the catering was, and it's Michael. And I'm like, Michael, what's up? Like, what you doing here? And he was like, I'm here with Brett Ratner. We came to the party. Is everything cool? Can we come? And I was always, impressed on how down to earth he was. But this is like extra down to earth. He's like asking, is it all right to come to the party? He's saying like, oh, this party is really hot. Or you got to invite me to more of your parties. And then he leans over to me. We taking some pictures. He leans over to me. He's like, where's Beyonce? And I'm like, I didn't think I heard him correctly. He's like, I heard she saying, where's Beyonce? And I'm like, okay, hold on, let me go find out where she's at. So I run up on B. B is on the dance floor. I'm like, B, Michael's here. He wants to meet you, whatever. And so I get Mike, bring him over. He's like, I love the record, whatever. He goes and tells the DJ to play the record. DJ plays the record, and I recall them dancing. I don't want to be quoted for that. That could have been in my imagination, but I do recall them dancing or something. But even if they never danced, that's the way it is in my mind. But I'm pretty sure that they did dance. But the whole recollection of that, it was so real that Mike recognized the greatness in Beyonce early, and didn't have no ego about it, and was ready to meet her and give her hugs. And he was also ready to go for his as a man. I think we all as men at that time wanted to dance with Beyonce. And I remember Michael had the courage enough to come to the party, ask for Beyonce, and even dance with her.
When we come back, we learn what Michael Jackson was like as a father. Plus, how Michael stepped in to help save an orphanage in Romania. And how do you play if Michael Jackson wants to go out and catch a movie? Akon explains.
And I'm looking at these kids' faces, and they not even knowing that Mike is standing right next to me. Like, if they only knew this guy was standing right next, you know how much havoc that would have caused up in that place?
We went in the studio, and I played him some beats, and just to watch, like, how Michael Jackson basically, like, would listen to music. And, you know, he would tap his feet, and then he would move his head. And, like, you hear, like, this beatbox, like, coming from his mouth. Like, while he's hearing the music, he's actually, like, timing the rhythm and the whole thing. I mean, it was really amazing to see.
Welcome back to Michael Jackson's Human Nature. Throughout Michael's career, he always made it a point to personally reach out to the hot hitmakers of the moment when it was time to record new music. And rarely did these star artists miss an opportunity to work with the king of pop. One artist who got that opportunity was Akon. A couple of years ago, Michael invited him to his studio in hopes of writing new music. What resulted was one of the most memorable moments of Akon's life.
Like, my favorite moments was the day we actually met, because I didn't expect him to be that cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm expecting him to be this just diva, just, you know, hard to deal with, barely speak. You know, got to send his message through somebody else. You know, like, these are the stories that you hear. You know, so I'm going upstairs, and I knock on the door. His bodyguard opens, said, okay, he's waiting to meet you. So I walk in, and he's in a spinning chair, but he's facing backwards. So I walk in the room, and his back is turned. And the guard says, here's Mike, you know, Akon's here. So he just spins around, and just, like it was all choreographed, right? So off top, I'm like, oh boy. You know what I mean? As soon as he turns around, gets up, yo, what up, man? I was like, what up, Mike? And he gave me a pound, we hugged each other. He said, yo, man, I've been waiting to meet you for so long, man. This is a great honor. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for making the time. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I should be thanking you right now for making the time, you know? But it was the craziest thing, because we sat down, we talked about Africa, we talked about my foundation, we talked about the music, we talked about girls. Like, we had a great, like, incredible time that day. I love movies. He was a moviegoer. He loves movies as well. And he was like, yo, man, I got to take you to this theater. This new technology they got is like 4D. Like, it feels like, you know, the images are right in front of you, like you're actually in the mix of it. And I was like, nah, I know 3D. He's like, no, listen, you got to check this out. I said, well, let's go. And he paused for a minute. He's like, okay, let's do it tomorrow. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I don't know how we expect to go to the movies, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this is Michael Jackson. Like, how the hell are we going to actually go to the movies? So the next day, you know, he calls my room. We was both staying at the Palm in Vegas. He's like, you ready? I'm ready. I was like, yeah, let me get dressed. But at the time, I thought he was just joking. I didn't think he was really, I thought he was going to probably just rent, you know, we go through the back late night or something. This is broad daylight. So he grabbed the kids. They looking normal. Mike comes out. He has his disguise on, you know. So I starts laughing because I didn't recognize him, you know. It wasn't like he had a fake mustache or he had a wig or nothing. He just had a simple hoodie on. So when you look at it, he could have easily passed to be a Saudi or somebody like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we're going into the mall. We get on the elevator, go down. We're going through the hotel where they have the IMAX thing. And as soon as we walk in, all these kids start coming running towards us, you know? So I'm like, oh, damn, I think they know who he is. And all the kids just come running up to me, asking me for an autograph. So I'm like, okay, I should just go ahead and should I just toss him off before they recognize who he is or just play it cool? So he shakes his head and like as if, yeah, go ahead, do what you gotta do. So I see them signing autographs, taking pictures, and I'm looking at these kids' faces and they not even knowing that Mike is standing right next to me. Like, if they only knew this guy was standing right next, you know how much havoc that would have caused up in that place? So we get into the theater and then the manager greets us up front. So he comes and hands us the tickets. We're all seated. So as we, you know, talking, sometimes I forget that he's supposed to be in his disguise, you know. And I keep calling him Mike. Right, and this little girl hears it. She's like, and she looks over, and I think she recognized him. Like, I really think she did. So then when I realized she was peeping, then I start calling him Dave. But she wasn't stupid. So she runs up, shoo, full speed, goes all the way to the top of the theater. And I see her whispering. And I look up, and the girl's just pointing. And I know she's not pointing at me. Like, I know this. And I think he kind of felt it, too. So right before the movie was over, we just all got up and started walking out. But by the time we got to the car, everybody in that place knew that possibly that could have been him. It was just the funniest thing, man. He was extremely funny, you know, he tells jokes, he laughs a lot, he just liked to have fun.
Michael definitely had a sharp sense of humor, but when it came to making music, Akon remembers him being all business.
Well, a lot of our memories in the studio was a lot of it work because he was so focused on trying to get the right material out. Now, we didn't really play around in there, you know what I mean? Like, we talked, but we rarely joked. Because at that moment, regardless of what we was doing then, let's get serious. And let's really do what we came here to do. He was never satisfied. Like, we might have passed up ideas that I know for a fact in my heart was smashes. He'd be like, nah, we gotta come up with better. We gotta come with something better. I'd be like, Mike, you can't get no better than this. What do you mean? No, trust me. If we can create this, we can create better. So it was over. And I promise you, as soon as we create something better than that, he'll say, we can do better. So we can never do better. Because his expectation was so high, and I think that was one of the main reasons why it took so long for him to create a project and him to be happy with it. Because he was so hard on himself and such a perfectionist to a point where no matter how incredible the record was, he believed it can get more incredible. Like, we never finished. It always became, we did tons of ideas. Like, I got ideas for years. Literally, I got ideas now that I probably use for myself because we never got a chance to use them. But I know were great, you know what I mean? Because music was always just fun and great going. But with him, it was a legacy that has to be, and a reputation that he had to have, and a standard that he had to continually match or get beyond, because he had accomplished and done so much to a point where he had to expand higher than where he was already at. He created a standard so high for himself that he could not see himself lose. But in this way, you know, I think I could never dispute with him, because at the end of the day, when the project was done, you couldn't deny it.
As we've learned thus far, Michael Jackson wasn't always the soft-spoken, introverted man that many of us perceived him to be. In fact, he was often quite the opposite. According to legendary producer Teddy Riley, who worked on the Dangerous, History and Invincible albums, Michael was a lot like us. He loved to bowl, play practical jokes on people, and beatbox the songs he had stuck in his head. But it got truly real when it came to Michael's kids. According to his friend, they were undoubtedly the love of his life.
On the Invincible album, we worked in New York, and he had his children in New York, and I felt so nervous meeting his children, but he brought them in and he said, I want you to meet Paris and I want you to meet Prince. And I said, wow, cool. He's like, okay, they're coming in now. Just have a seat, sit down. I was like, okay. It was like, almost like you're meeting a brother's children, you know, for the first time. It's like my big brother and I'm about to meet my niece and nephew. And they walked in playful and were like, so this is Theodore. He didn't say Teddy, he was like, this is Theodore. And they were like, hi Theodore. And it was just the greatest feeling. I felt like I was part of the family. With his children, it just gave him even more of realness. He reads them a book every day. When we were in Virginia doing the Invincible album, there was not one day miss reading the children something. So that showed me right there, he's an incredible father. We talked about his moments when he was young and how, you know, he would never have his children go through any of that. He would never scold them. You know, it was just not the answer. And he knew, he just like, I would never have them go through the same thing. ever in their lives. He's like, I think the best schooling for children is time out. The best schooling for children is let's read a book. I have to say this, his timeouts are not as bad as, our timeouts and, family timeouts. His timeout is the kids got to go lay in the bed and stay in the bed. They don't go up against the wall and look at the wall for, an hour, or 10 minutes. He sent them to the bunks with no TV. So, for me, that's a good timeout. But the kids, they knew what it was. They realized what it was. So, that's what I witnessed when I met the children. They love their dad. They love their dad so much. They love him so much, and I know that they're gonna really miss him. Really, really, really miss him.
All of us know Michael Jackson as the king of pop, but he's also the undisputed king of charity. What kind of humanitarian was he? Well, he's listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most charitable pop star ever. One man who witnessed his generosity firsthand was Kenny Ortega. Ortega co-created and designed the Dangerous in History tours and was preparing the This Is It concert series when Jackson died. He'll admit that working with Michael was one of the highlights of his life, but it was what MJ did off the stage that had the most profound effect on him.
Working with Michael was not like, it was like a completely unique experience to anything else that you could possibly have in your life as a creative person. The first time Michael called me to work with him was before Dangerous, 2 decades ago. And it was the most unbelievable day of my life. And this guy was just, the hero in every aspect of what I loved and why I was doing what I did. One thing that really will live long and be everlasting with me, just in terms of my, what I learned from Michael was his reasons for doing things. And they were pure. We were going out to do This Is It. And he never once, ever, in the months that we worked together, talked about selling records. He talked about wanting to do This Is It because he felt that he was still young enough to be able to do it, and he wanted to share it with his children that were old enough to be able to appreciate what it was that he's loved all of his life. He wanted to do it for the fans. He wanted to give them back for staying there with him, for supporting him, for not quitting him. And most importantly, he said, Kenny, I wrote these songs, over a decade ago. Earth Song, We Are the World, Heal the World, and look at the planet. Look at the peril that we're in. Look at the human condition. If we don't do something to help this planet in the next 4 to 6 years, we'll have done irreversible damage, and there will be no saving this place for future generations. And that's how he talked. Now let's go to work. Let's dream up a show. Let's entertain people, but let's leave them with something important at the end of the day. I was doing the Olympics the second time Michael called me. I was like actually doing the Atlanta Olympics opening and closing ceremonies when Michael called and said, I need you now. And I was like, okay, I was doing the biggest show on the planet, but I was still going to figure out a darn way to work with Michael, because, when he called, you said yes. I dealt with the consequences of having said yes after, but never wanted to pass up an opportunity because I knew it would be life-changing. I was with Michael in Eastern Europe, and we got off of a plane, and he said, do you want to go to the hotel? You want to come to the orphanage with me? And it was like, rather than going to the hotel, he went to the orphanage. And he walked into this orphanage, and I remembered him looking, and he was walking through it, and he was very calm. The promoters were there, and he was looking around, and the conditions were pretty grim. And I saw him whisper to someone, and then whisper to someone else, and he was, moving through and interacting with the children. And then later I found out what he had whispered, and it was, this orphanage will be turned around. There will be new beds in here. There will be clean sheets in here. There will be more people in here taking care of these children by tomorrow, or I'm not going to go on stage. I saw this guy go into an orphanage in Romania and turn the conditions around within 24 hours. Another thing that I'll always remember about him. This guy had the biggest heart of anybody and really, really did care about improving, the human condition, especially for children. That was part of his mission. While he was on tour, he always wanted to know what he could do in each place so that when he left the place better, having been there. And how many people can you say that about?
Amazing story. And like the other stories told here, it provides a little more insight about Michael as the real person behind the influential icon. Michael Jackson, the man, will definitely be missed, but there's no doubt that his music and memory will live on forever.